Is Afenyo Markin, minority leader in parliament, in trouble? That's the big question in me, Busa, because Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Alban Bagbin, has cited Honorable Afenyo Markin, minority leader, contempt and say are referring to the Privileges Committee. Abuzavona, unim say refer to the Privileges Committee, and niya in kakra. Aye, and the Yabamwati I said the entire Yawahanum say. Nina shall say, Mahama Yaraga, ECOWAS Parliament, and Anakofa Winaba. And the speakers are deliver a verdict on the ruling on Kpandai Member of Parliament, Matthew Nyindam, or better Parliament, carrying himself as parliamentarian. So the final, decision to us to where reorganize the election in Kpandai constituency and I some speaker ruling. It was quite shocking. And I think you're going to enjoy this episode right here on Nana Jantua TV. I'm about you say, click the subscribe button. We are bell notification icon. Turn on video and drop here. I'll be the first person to get the video. I'm sure you will enjoy it. So we'll leave a comment in the comment section. I feel we are. Obeshanwa like it now for any biash. And the show no now okay and they produce. Young man say, you only say. Afenyo Markin minority leader. Now beka is September this year. ECOWAS Parliament Afenyo Markin a dean for delegation. He say Asokwa MP Patricia J honorable and representing Ghana in ECOWAS Parliament. But later no, Madam Anasa honorable Patricia J ebeye statement say ontimi and replace Afenyo Markin. In fact, ontimi call on behalf of Ghana into a free delegation. Sansam no edin chuacho kakra by but later Afenyo Markin ECOWAS Parliament no ya abrana obia no se yi ne din afi list ni mo Patricia J na also okono kas ontimi ko later Afenyo Markin PM ECOWAS Parliament in Nigeria enti ekoba sa no kra no unse enyo ni din na booksum ECOWAS Parliament in Nigeria enti ekoba sa Ghana kra no decision making no yantimi an contribute meaningfully na oba back no ana Mahama Yaraga I think early this month on the floor of Parliament, cited Afenyo Markin for contempt. Nina say, who they say obu Parliament and him Patricia J so Patricia say ontimi ko honorable say ontimi kwa. Who who kwasa also because you did for delegation to ko den. But and the speaker are delivering the ruling on it. Ama Medika catches the big story is that Afenyo Markin, the minority leader, has been referred to the Privileges Committee. But on another Jan 20, who said the say we always wanted to appreciate the full context of video you're shooting. They say how it came about, you better try what you say. Enti yenko tie Mahama Yaraga, majority leader in Parliament on the floor of Parliament. I think 11th November. O chama de kontia. I was see a refer Afenyo Markin to the Privileges Committee. Near cited for contempt. O be chama de kontia who say Afenyo Markin anyade.
Mr. Speaker, if you recall, we had removed the name of the minority leader, Honorable Afenyo Markin, Alexander Kwamina, member for Efutu, from the list of Ghana's delegation to the ECOWAS Community Parliament. So, Speaker, this resolution of this Parliament was communicated to the ECOWAS Parliament by, I believe, your good self. Mr. Speaker, the ECOWAS Parliament convened to sit in Port Harcourt in Nigeria from the 25th to the 28th of September 2025. That's Port Harcourt in the River State of Nigeria from 25th to 28th September 2025. So, Speaker, this Parliament's delegation, as constituted by our resolution, went to Port Harcourt and they met the Honorable Afenyo Markin, Alexander Kwamina, sitting there and refusing to give way as directed by this Parliament. Indeed, whilst our nominated delegation were there, and it was time to swear in members, the ECOWAS Parliament refused to swear in Ghana's delegation. They refused to swear in Ghana's delegation and said that they will not 4 members of our delegation. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Afenyo Markin Alexander Kwamina was at that session of the ECOWAS Parliament, attended that session of the ECOWAS Parliament in clear defiance of a resolution of this Parliament.
For majority leader in Parliament, Mahama Yarga ana otening kano. Enne verdict in Aba. Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Alban Bagbin, I deliver the verdict. The short or the summary of it is that Afenyo Markin has been referred to the Privileges Committee. Now, when it's a Parliament, so they refer to the Privileges Committee. That's just a contempt to and some ekaho. It's the any kakra. Ani she. It's you couldn't get a full video of how the Speaker of Parliament delivered the verdict on Afenyo Markin. Yes, cited for contempt of Parliament. Now you're referring to the Privileges Committee. Yeah, ba. The match talked about Kpandai constituency. MP no. The verdict is so understand the ruling so by. But first off, let's go and enjoy this one on Afenyo Markin.
In respect of the complaint of contempt that was brought against the minority leader, Honorable Osahin Alexander Kwamina Afenyo Markin, member for Efutu and minority leader of the House. Honorable members, on Tuesday, 11th November 2025, this House received a formal complaint under Order 6 and 33 from Honorable Mahama Ayarga, Member of Parliament for Boku Central and Majority Leader. The complaint alleges that Honorable Osahin Alexander Kwamina Afenyo Markin, Member for Efutu and Minority Leader, has engaged in conduct which, if substantiated, may constitute contempt of Parliament and a breach of parliamentary privilege pursuant to Orders 30 and 31-0 of our standing orders. The complaint arises from events said to have occurred during the sitting of the ECOWAS Parliament in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, Nigeria, from 25th to 28th September 2025. According to Honorable Ayarga, Honorable Afenyo Markin attended that session of the ECOWAS Parliament in contravention of a duly adopted resolution of this House, which excluded his name from Ghana's delegation to that regional parliament. The complainant asserts further that this conduct amounts to an affront to the authority and dignity of Parliament, and accordingly invites the Speaker to refer the matter to the Committee on Privileges and Immunities for inquiry and recommendations to the House. Honorable members, as I indicated at the close of the Majority Leader's submission that day, the standing orders prescribe the procedure to be followed when allegations of contempt or breach of privilege are raised. It falls to the Speaker, in the first instance, to determine whether the facts disclosed in the complaint established a prima facie case warranting referral to the committee. Members recall that I deferred my ruling to the next day, and that was to be Wednesday, 12 November 2025. However, the pressures of business on the order paper made it impossible to deliver the ruling on that day. I am now in a position to do so. In considering this matter, I have reflected carefully on the facts alleged, the standing orders, and the relevant constitutional and statutory provisions governing 1, the authority of Parliament, 2, the binding force of parliamentary resolutions, and 3, the scope of Parliament's contempt jurisdiction. What is the nature and effect of a resolution of Parliament? Honorable members, a resolution of Parliament is a formal act through which the House expresses its collective will on a matter properly before it. Once adopted, a resolution becomes a binding decision of the House until it is rescinded, suspended, or varied in accordance with the standing orders of the House. A resolution, therefore, has continuing effect, and the Speaker, as the presiding authority, is bound to give effect to it. While the Speaker may clarify the scope or meaning of a resolution, he cannot amend, modify, or disregard it unilaterally. Honorable members, this principle reflects the doctrine of collective responsibility. When Parliament speaks through a resolution, that decision binds all members, irrespective of political affiliation, leadership status, or personal opinion. As Eskime reminds us, and I quote Eskime, the dignity of Parliament depends upon the observation of its rules, and the authority of Parliament depends upon their enforcement, unquote. This is the foundation upon which parliamentary collective responsibility rests. So what is the power and scope of Parliament's contempt jurisdiction? Contempt of Parliament refers to any act or omission that obstructs, impedes, or undermines Parliament in the performance of its functions, or which affronts its dignity, or tends either directly or indirectly to obstruct, impede, undermine Parliament in the performance of its functions, or affront the dignity of Parliament. Parliament's power to address contempt is inherent in its constitutional status as a coordinate arm of government and is expressly recognized under Article 122 of the Constitution, Order 30 of the Standing Orders, and Section 26 of the Parliament Act 1965, Act 300. Honorable members, the jurisdiction to sanction contempt is not limited to acts committed within the chamber. The relevant test is whether the conduct, wherever it occurs, has a direct or indirect tendency to obstruct, diminish, or bring Parliament into disrepute or ridicule. Parliament may therefore exercise its contempt jurisdiction over conduct occurring outside the presence of the House, where such conduct undermines the institution's authority or impairs its ability to give effect to its decisions. Honorable members, I note that the specific instances of contempt listed in the standing orders, such as disorderly behavior, deceit, or disobedience of an order issued by the presiding officer, do not expressly identify non-compliance with or disregard of a resolution as a distinct ground of contempt. A resolution, as earlier observed, is a decision of Parliament, not an order of the Speaker. There is therefore no express provision making its breach a stand-alone category of contempt. However, Section 26 of Act 300 makes clear that the enumeration of contempt grounds is not exhaustive. Parliament retains the right to treat as contempt any act that impedes its functions or affronts its dignity. Order 31A similarly contemplates conduct, whether specific or general, that brings Parliament into disrepute or undermines its institutional authority. It is within this broader category that the present allegation must be assessed. Honorable members, it is useful to consider what constitutes an affront to the dignity or authority of Parliament. Orders 30C and 31 prove directly or indirectly brings Parliament into disrepute or which undermines its authority, reputation, or dignity may amount to contempt. These capture behavior that, while not obstructing proceedings, undermines Parliament's standing, coherence, or credibility. An affront to the dignity or authority of Parliament may arise where a member's conduct A. challenges or disregards a valid act or decision of the House. B. diminishes the institutional authority of Parliament or the Speaker. C. undermines public confidence in the discipline, unity, or dignity of Parliament. Or D. brings Parliament into disrepute before state organs or external bodies. Unlike other specific grounds of contempt set out in the standing orders, this category focuses not on the place where the act occurred, but on its effect. Conduct that conveys the impression that Parliament's decision may be ignored without consequence qualify as an affront to dignity, even if committed outside the presence of the House. Democratic experience across the world teaches that institutions endure not by their formal design alone, but by the conduct of those entrusted with them. The strength of this House, therefore, rests not merely in its constitutional design, but in the consistent respect members accord to its decisions and processes. Honorable members, having reviewed the complaint, the standing orders, and the governing principles, I am satisfied that the matter raised prima facie implicates the dignity and institutional integrity of this House. Pursuant to Order 34.1, I therefore refer the matter, the complaint lodged by the Honorable Member for Bawku Central and a majority leader to the Committee on Privileges and Immunities for examination, inquiry, investigation, and report to the House. The committee is directed to 1. ascertain the relevant facts giving rise to the complaint, including the actions taken by the House and by the Honorable Member concerned. 2. Review those actions taken within the framework of our standing orders and the applicable protocols of the ECOWAS Parliament. 3. Determine whether the conduct, if established, constitutes contempt of Parliament or a breach of privilege under Orders 30 and 31A. And 4. Make appropriate recommendations to the House for its consideration. In conclusion, honorable members, whatever our political differences, the authority of Parliament rests on a shared commitment to respect its decisions and uphold the integrity of its processes. Allegations that a member has disregarded a decision of this House must therefore be examined with fairness, constitutional fidelity, and a clear regard for the institutional independence of Parliament. I urge the committee to discharge its mandate with diligence, impartiality, and decorum, ensuring that all parties are given a fair hearing. Until the committee completes its inquiry and responds to the House, and reports to the House, I advise honorable members to refrain from public commentary on this matter in order to preserve the dignity and unity of this august House. I thank all of you for your attention.
Therefore, Minority Leader Afenyo Markin, according to Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin, you referred to the Privileges Committee as regards the contempt and sema after so copy mu ECOWAS Parliament, But yemfriwo, and the same day on the floor of Parliament, Speaker Esa deliver another ruling, this time on Kpandai constituency. Omo MP friend Honorable Matthew Nyindam, and now back on the floor of Parliament, majority chief whip, Roxanne Nelson the firm Koka said debi. Papa way, I mean Tamale High Court had a decision about say you're organizing an election in the constituency in 30 days, and Bibiache say he cannot carry himself as a member of Parliament. And Sadia only who quine on the floor of Parliament or in any engagement about cry. And you're working it out. That was the demand of the majority yesterday on the floor of Parliament. And Speaker better to deliver the ruling. Speaker say the member of Parliament Yahweh MPP ni for Kpandai constituency. Honorable Matthew Nyindam or who quine so about Parliament about carrying himself as a member of Parliament for Kpandai constituency in 7 days to 1st December 2025. Enchiremuno or the Banti Speaker again Alban Bagbin or deliver the ruling and answer a verdict on Kpandai constituency member of Parliament Honorable Matthew Nyindam. Better also the
The formal communication has to do with what happened yesterday when the first Deputy Speaker was presiding. I watched the proceedings, and particularly the issue concerning the court order on the rerun of the Kpandai parliamentary election. Honorable members, on Tuesday, 25th November 2025, the Legal Services Office of the House was served with an order from the Tamale High Court directed at the clerk to Parliament. Per the order, the court had ordered the second respondent, that is the Electoral Commission, to rerun the Kpandai parliamentary election within 30 days. Honorable members, this order arises out of the election petition filed by Daniel Nsala Wapal, challenging the declaration of the Electoral Commission of Matthew Nyindam as Member of Parliament elect for the Kpandai constituency pursuant to the parliamentary elections held on the 7th of December 2024. Honorable members, the effect of the order, to my understanding, is that the Electoral Commission is to conduct a rerun election within 30 days, implying that the original declaration of Honorable Matthew Nyindam as the winner of the parliamentary election is invalid, and the member is no longer a member of Parliament. I, however, bring to the attention of the House the provisions of the Court of Appeal Rules 1997 CI19 as amended in the Court of Appeal Rules 2020 CI132, Rule 27(3), and it provides as follows. I quote, "There shall be a stay of execution of the judgment or decision appealed against for a period of 7 days immediately following the giving of notice of the judgment or decision," unquote. This rule appears mandatory in its terms and applies in every High Court decision capable of appeal. The Supreme Court in Mensah versus Ghana Commercial Bank, 2005 to 2006, Supreme Court Ghana Law Report at page 388, held that any execution commenced before the expiry of this 7-day period is premature and void. The Court of Appeal reaffirmed this position in Clenham Construction Limited versus Falcon Crest, the 7th of April 2022, emphasizing that the purpose of the statutory stay is to allow the losing party the opportunity to consider the judgment and determine whether to appeal or seek further relief. Justice Ba J.A. explained the position of Lord Das, and I quote him, "The plain meaning, scope, and effect of Rule 27(3)(b) CI19 is that in respect of any ruling, judgment, or decision of the High Court of whatever description, in respect of which an appeal can be filed, and further, in respect of which an application for stay of execution or proceedings could be filed, they shall operate a statutory stay of execution or proceedings for a period of 7 days. The apparent intent of the law is to enable the vanquished to ponder over and scrutinize the bona fides of the ruling, decision, or judgment in order to decide on whether or not to appeal. It is when a decision is made to appeal that an application may be made to the High Court under Rule 27(1)(a) of CI19 or to this court under Rule 27(1)(b) CI19. In this instance, the ruling of the Tamil High Court was delivered on the 24th of November 2025. The statutory 7-day stay therefore remains in force until 1st December 2025. During this period, the High Court's ruling cannot form the basis for the Speaker to instruct the clerk to notify the Electoral Commission that the Kpandai seat is vacant. In addition to the above, should Honorable Nyindam exercise his right of appeal, such as an application under Rule 27(1) of CI 19, it may impose a further suspension on the enforcement of the judgment until the application is determined by the appropriate court. This rule appears to prevent the subject matter of the appeal from being altered or prejudiced while the appeal processes are pending. Therefore, before the initial 7-day statutory stay, the filing of a stay application may yet introduce an additional layer that may prevent changes to the member status within the meaning of Article 97 and 99 of the Constitution. The House's attention is also brought to Article 105 of the 1992 Constitution, which provides that a person who sits or votes in Parliament, and I quote, knowing or having reasonable grounds for knowing, unquote, that he is not entitled to do so, commits an offense. It is crucial to emphasize that Article 105 is penal in nature should the member know that he ought not to be in the chamber and he participates in the activities in the chamber. Honorable members, it's therefore too premature to say that the Honorable Matthew Nyindam is disqualified from entering and participating in the proceedings of the House, because this period still falls within the 7 days mandatory stay of execution of the order. Honorable members, this is not a declaratory order. It is an executive order that was delivered by the High Court. And so the honorable member is right to have been in the House yesterday and to have participated in the proceedings. Honorable members, as I indicated, I had a second job to do, and that had to do with the ruling. The ruling is in respect of the complaint of contempt that was brought against the minority leader, Honorable Osahin Alexander Kwamina Afenyo Markin, member for Efutu.
And the Abuja for Parliament, and 2 major issues, and the free Parliament Abremo ruling on Afenyo Markin citing for contempt. You're referring to privileges committees, and so an Kpandai member of Parliament, Honorable Matthew Nyindam. So you're delivering ruling 7 days per no bit media Parliament. In terms of the moon, you answer some share. The patch Oko Crown and click the subscribe button, and we are bell notification icon or better on video. You'll be the first person to get Afenyo channel. I'm sure someone will comment in your comment section at the appropriate time. Myself and Nana Jantua will be here to share your comments with the rest of the world.